Hidden beside one of Prescott's busiest recreational trails is a road that no longer goes anywhere. The pavement is still here, so are the curbs, drainage structures, and pieces of infrastructure. But the traffic disappeared years ago, and nature has slowly begun taking the road back. This footage was recorded near the northern end of Prescott's P-Vine Trail, just south of State Route 89A. Today, this part of Prescott looks very different from the way it did only a couple of decades ago. New roads, development, and the Granite Dells Parkway interchange transformed the area and left pieces of the older transportation network behind. From here, the route leaves the obvious trail corridor and follows the remains of the old roadway as it disappears toward Old Highway 89A. This pavement is a remnant of the older side road and State Route 89, a transportation network that existed before Granite Dells Parkway shifted traffic farther east. Planning documents for the area show that the newer Granite Dells Parkway interchange was built roughly 1,800 feet east of the older side road intersection, leaving this older alignment behind. This map shows how the abandoned roadway sits between the P-Vine Trail and the newer Granite Dells Parkway corridor. The old alignment is still visible on the ground, even though the surrounding transportation network has changed. Beyond the bridge, the old pavement becomes much more obvious. The road surface is still largely intact, but weeds, sediment, and years of neglect are beginning to erase its original purpose. Along this stretch, the faded centerline, broken pavement, and encroaching vegetation make it clear that this was once a functioning road, not just a dirt access track. This diagram shows the change more clearly. The older side road connection remained to the west, while the new Granite Dells Parkway interchange shifted the main traffic corridor roughly 1,800 feet east. From this point on, the ride follows the abandoned pavement itself. The farther it goes, the more the roadway starts to feel disconnected from the modern streets around it. Even with the pavement still intact, the road is slowly being reclaimed. Grass and brush are pushing in from both sides, and debris is collecting in places that once carried regular traffic. What makes this stretch unusual is how complete it still feels. This isn't just a trace of an old route. It's a recognizable roadway that has simply been left behind. And because the route sits so close to active roads and neighborhoods, it's easy to miss unless you happen to notice where the old pavement disappears. There's something strange about seeing a road built for cars when there are no cars, no traffic, and no obvious reason for the road to still be here. From the pavement alone, it's hard to tell exactly when regular traffic stopped using this section, but the cracks, overgrowth, and accumulated debris show that it has been out of normal service for quite some time. What survives here is essentially a snapshot of an older transportation layout, pavement, drainage, and roadway geometry still visible even after the surrounding network moved on. The road also preserves small details that would normally disappear once a route is fully removed: faded lane markings, pavement edges, drainage features, and the original curve of the roadway. Taken together, those details make this more than just an overgrown path. They show the footprint of a road that was engineered, used, and then quietly bypassed. Today, the newer road system carries the traffic, while this older strip of pavement remains almost hidden in plain sight. Without the old road still visible, it would be easy to assume this area had always been laid out the way it is today. Seen from this perspective, the abandoned road becomes a kind of time capsule. The newer streets and development around it belong to a different transportation layout, but the older pavement still preserves the geometry of what came before. There are no dramatic ruins here, no collapsed buildings, and no historic marker explaining what happened. Instead, the story is written directly into the landscape, in the faded roadway, the drainage features, the old curves, and the vegetation slowly reclaiming the surface. That is what makes places like this interesting, and they can sit beside active roads and neighborhoods for years, almost unnoticed, even though they preserve a piece of relatively recent history. One of the most interesting things about abandoned infrastructure is how quickly its purpose becomes unclear. Remove the traffic, stop the maintenance, and let a few years pass, and something that once seemed completely ordinary can begin to look strangely out of place. The pavement here still points toward its former destination, but the modern road network no longer depends on it. What remains is essentially a preserved fragment of the older layout, surrounded by a landscape that continued changing around it. This kind of place is easy to overlook because nothing dramatic happened here. There was no disaster, no famous event, and no spectacular collapse. The road simply became unnecessary when the surrounding network changed. That quiet transition is part of what makes it interesting. Infrastructure can disappear from everyday use long before it disappears from the landscape, leaving behind clues that only become obvious when someone slows down enough to notice them. As the footage continues, the old road stays surprisingly recognizable. Its width, curves, and pavement edges still reveal exactly what it was built for, even though normal traffic has long since moved elsewhere. Eventually, even this pavement will continue to deteriorate. Cracks will widen, vegetation will spread farther across the surface, and more of the road will blend back into the surrounding terrain. For now, though, enough of the original roadway survives to make its history visible, and is a small reminder that even ordinary infrastructure can become a kind of artifact once the world around it moves on. The unusual part is not that the road vanished. It is that so much of it never really did. The traffic disappeared first, while the physical road remained behind, slowly becoming part of the landscape. What remains here is easy to miss, but once noticed, it changes the way this landscape looks. A forgotten road can preserve a surprising amount of history simply by being left where it was. And for now, the old road is still here,